5 minutes in the cup. Welcome to 5 Minutes in a Cup of Joe. I'm Joseph Ashcraft Jr. Let's get started. The NFL draft has come and it has gone, and the second guessing and the signing of contracts will begin in earnest now. Let's take a moment to go back and review some of the great NFL draft selections of recent memory. Let's begin, of course, with the 1998 NFL draft. And, of course, the Indianapolis Colts were on the clock, and the selection seemed to come down between one of two quarterback selections. It seemed to come down between Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. And, of course, we know that the Colts selected Peyton Manning, pick number one. And, of course, Peyton Manning would proceed to have a stellar NFL career. He won the Super Bowl with the Colts and with the Denver Broncos. And if you look up a player who was fine, he rewrote the NFL record books in so many ways, yards, touchdowns, and of course, he just had a great career. And the way he changed how quarterback play was done, how he would audible at the line of scrimmage in a way that had never been done before him, was really, really a special thing to watch. And so Peyton Manning has one of the great careers. Ryan Leaf flames out of the league in a few years' time, has a journeyman career. And, of course, as a GM, as a scout, you certainly hope you get someone like Peyton Manning every time you draft somebody. Now, you don't have to have talent all the time in pick number one, but you could have draft talent even in late as round number 4. And I'll talk now about the Dallas Cowboys in the 2016 NFL draft, using their 4th round selection on quarterback Dak Prescott out of Southern Mississippi. And Dak Prescott proceeded to complete over 100 consecutive passes without an interception in his rookie year. Of course, coming on in relief of Tony Romo, who went down with injury in preseason, and Tony Romo would never get his job back and would proceed to retire and then go straight to the broadcast booth. And, of course, Prescott, he's had a great career, and, of course, now with the Cowboys, he is now the highest paid player, highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And we'll see how he does this season. Hopefully fully healthy. Hopefully the Cowboys will meet those needs in the offseason. Maybe draft a wide receiver to put opposite of CeeDee Lamb and fill the hole at running back that they need as well. And so you don't always have to have talent in the 1st round or the 4th round, certainly. The most famous 6th round draft selection of all time will be when the New England Patriots drafted in the 2000 NFL draft a quarterback out of Michigan named Tom Brady. And, of course, Tom Brady would proceed to come on in relief of Drew Bledsoe. And, of course, the rest is history. His rookie season, Tom Brady leads the Patriots to the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady proceeds to rewrite all sorts of records. And he wins more Super Bowls than anyone else, and he proceeds to simply just have a stellar NFL career. Probably the best NFL career of all time. Of course, that's debatable. But you have talent pick number 199, and of course, with the final pick in the NFL draft, which is typically referred to as Mr. Irrelevant 2022 NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers selected a quarterback named Brock Purdy. And of course, Brock Purdy would proceed to do very well as quarterback of the 49ers, and he will forever be known as the greatest Mr. Irrelevant selection of all time. And so you never know where you're going to find value in the draft, but of course this is where your scouts, this is where your general managers, this is where they make their money. This has been 5 Minutes in a Cup of Joe. I'm Joseph Ashcraft Jr. Please visit my website, bznsports.com, and my YouTube channel, Powers on Sports Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Seth's Conservative Show. How are you doing tonight, Tracy?
Well, man, how you been this week?
Doing good, man. Doing good. And I want to thank Joe Ashcraft for doing 5 cups of Joe. I want to thank him
Easy
for
for
doing
you to
that
say.
segment. What's that?
Easy for you to say.
Oh, 5 cups of Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank Joe for doing that, man, and I want to thank everybody that listens to the show. Man, we had unbelievable numbers last week. 101 listeners, man.
Just in one show. Yeah. And, I
Which,
mean, it was week 2. So that gives us a running total of pretty close to what, if on all platforms, about what, 300
oh,
in
easily,
2
man.
weeks?
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
In 2 weeks. So yeah, man, that's pretty cool. So, but you got to remember I can't remember what day it is. Coming up, Jimmy Haunted
May 3rd.
is
May
going to come
3rd.
on May 3rd. Jimmy Pettinino's got the book Origins. It's a very interesting read. I mean, you get it on Amazon. Go to Mr. Haunted Facebook, whatever. He'll get you a book, but definitely check that out. But tonight we have 2 ladies who share a very fascinating, let's call it weirdness with me, and that is serial killers. We have Abby Dunn and Brittany Akers. Hey guys,
Hello.
are we ready to spill some blood tonight?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Yes,
Beam
we're
for the
on
blood.
board.
And you know, it's really weird because we have these conversations all the time about certain serial killers and what the fascination is with them, with how they can go commit these crimes, and I mean torture, murder, rape, what have you, whatever floats their boat, and then they just kind of melt back into society. A lot of these guys have families, wives, children, especially daughters, which I find that really fascinating. And then they just kind of go about their own routine, just like everybody else does. And then the urge hits them again, and they have to kill. And to me, that is just so fascinating how you can go in and out of those 2 worlds so easily. So we're going to kind of get into that and kind of get your all's take on that part of it. But first of all, let's start out. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Right at the top of Abby's list, you had BTK.
BTK, one of my absolute favorites. Dennis Rader was one of the most abnormal humans that I've ever read about, watched about. Like a functioning member of society that behind his closed doors was just a sick individual, and
Totally.
was a dad, a husband, like a perfect employee, very disciplined, very knowledgeable, Boy Scout leader, like all of these wholesome things, and then could go out and commit crimes the way that he did. Ridiculous.
Which was, the BTK was the bind, torture, kill, and he did actually torture all of his victims.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
his idiom was, he was one. He was like if you guys ever seen Silence of the Lambs, he was the Wild Bill character, Buffalo Bill. He put mask on and put himself in these poses in, women's underwear with a noose around their neck. And that's how he would pretty much pose a dead body once he got through with it. And it's just crazy how that you go from that, I don't want to say craziness, but that's basically what it is, to perfectly normal.
Right.
And this guy was a church leader, which we'll get into here in a second, which is what got him caught.
Mm-hmm.
But there were several different victims, and this guy went through 30 some years without getting caught. And he taunted the police department the entire 30 years.
Right.
And they could never figure it out. But I don't want to call
Arrogance.
it stupid because yes, it was arrogance because he was not a stupid man by no means.
Right.
And he was pretty much, almost anal retentive on how meticulous he was
Mhm.
to keep from getting caught. So yeah, give us a little bit about how that perspired as far as getting caught.
So I do remember that he had posed one of his victims, I believe, at his church. He loved to take pictures. He loved to keep keepsakes. He loved having little bits and pieces of them. And he pretty much labeled them, categorized them, treasured them. But he was very arrogant and he felt like that he was smarter than everybody. So that's definitely what got him caught was, he
Yeah.
definitely didn't think that would ever happen. And he would have years and years and years where he wouldn't do anything, make any moves. He would plan and he would scope out, but he wouldn't do anything. And as he raised his kids, it fell quiet and then it just until it didn't.
And
Yeah.
something about as he was taunting the police, he was sending them letters. He was sending a news station letters as well. He asked one of the Oklahoma Police Department put together this task force, and he was conversing through newspaper ads, and they were conversing back. He asked them, "Can you track a floppy disk?" And of course, what are they going to say? Oh, absolutely. No, they told him, no, we can't. But when they got the floppy disk, it actually had his name on it, where it come from, what computer he used at the church, because he was writing these letters at his church.
Right.
And then it come down to just his pure arrogance. But he trusted the police to the point to where, he believed them when they said, no, we can't track a floppy disk.
I think
And
he did
that's what
that
got him
because
caught.
I think he did that too because he was such, in every other aspect of his life, a law-abiding citizen. He did everything exactly by the book. So why would they lie to him?
And he was in law enforcement.
Yeah, he was.
He was it a conservation officer or some kind of parks something?
It was like a park and rec or some kind. Plus, he did a lot of stuff with the Boy Scouts, which I thought was, kind of crazy.
To be
You take
around
all these oaths, kids. And
because one of the very first murders that he ever committed had 2 kids in it. So you would think that being around, especially Boy Scout kids or that age anyway, that would be like, dangling the fish in front of the seal,
Right.
So yeah, that's but this, we go on and on about, how do you melt in and out of that lifestyle for so many years and never get caught? And the crazy thing, his family didn't have a clue.
Right. Can you imagine being his wife?
Oh, I think she probably filed for divorce immediately.
Well, I became his daughter, Carrie Ralston. I became her friend on Facebook. She had a very public Facebook page where she talked a lot about the relationship between her and her dad, and then the relationship between her and her dad now that he's imprisoned, and after she found out all the things that he had done. She's written several books. And it's kind of creepy in a way because when you look at her, you see him. Like they look very similar. Their voices are very similar. They're very monotone. The way they sound, the way they speak, everything is very similar to the other one. And
so that makes me think, what are the odds of that trait being passed down to the next generation? I wonder. I wonder if there's ever
Yeah.
been a study on that.
Like
So,
a dad
I
and
mean,
son, like a dad and
yeah,
son
I mean,
duo, mom and
right.
son.
Well, that and the wiring. If the wiring is off in the dad, could it be off in the son as well?
I do
Mhm.
feel like it's definitely like a lot more psychological than anything.
You're probably right because,
So,
and in most cases, these guys have had horrible childhoods. But not in all. There's been
not
several, like
always.
as in Dennis Rader. He had a normal childhood.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad you chimed in, Britt, because we're going to jump on into one of our favorites, the dating game killer, which fascinates me that this guy was actually, if anybody remembers the 70s, which I don't remember that at all. But there was a game show called The Dating Game, and this guy was actually on the dating game and won. And the date that he won refused to go on a date with him for the fact that she was so creeped out by him that she refused to go on a date with him. And that's Rodney Ocala.
Mhm.
Do you blame her? I wouldn't want to go on a date with him either.
Oh, no, he
Well,
was
I
a
mean,
looker, Brett.
have you?
What is it?
Yeah, that's what
He
I was
was
going
a
to say.
looker. He was a looker. He was very
Okay.
He was a
snazzy.
handsome guy. He really
Mhm.
was. But there had to be, you know
His
what? There's always
persona,
this thing.
obviously, his persona
You
must
know,
have been a little off.
some people have this thing called discernment, and you can feel when things are off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if we had more of that, there'd be a lot less serial killers.
Right. That's true.
So, but yeah, I mean, this guy was he was caught in California. He picked up this little girl. I don't remember. I think she was like 13-ish, 10-ish, somewhere around in there. And a guy watched him pick her up and take her back to his house. He called the police. When the police knocked on his door, when they looked in the window, there was blood all over the kitchen floor. And this guy, this Rodney Ocala, was basically killing this little girl. And he ran out the back door and got away. So he was on the run for a while, ended up going to New York. That's where his mother lived. And, the speculation is that, he went all the way across the country. How many women did he kill?
Right.
So,
I believe that there were two that he was I believe that there were two that were actually proven that he had killed in New York. Now, like you said, between California and New York, there are probably dozens of others, that
yeah,
passed
if
his.
not more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. When he finally got caught, they found these storage lockers. He was a photographer, and that's how he lured a lot of these ladies in, of promises of modeling careers, and let me take your headshots and your pictures, and I'll send them to my friends here, name dropping. And over half of the women that were in those pictures are still missing today.
Yeah, tons.
So they really don't know how many he killed.
Right.
I mean, he may be one of the most prolific serial killers in U.S. history.
Yeah. And that's how he got a lot of his victims too, because he would say, I'm going to take some photographs of you. These are, beautiful pictures. It'll give you a lot of traction with these pictures, and that's how he would, abduct them and kill them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how he picked
And
up the little girl. He said, I have a really pretty picture that I want to show you. And so she got in the vehicle with him, and that's how he got that first one that you were talking about. The one.
right, and that she is still alive.
Yes, yes.
I actually seen an interview with her, and she is still alive today.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, I figure she probably realizes how close to death she probably came.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because is that victim number 1 or is that victim number 100?
Right.
You don't know.
I'm sure that wasn't the first.
No, and he confessed to a few of them while he was in prison. Then he clammed up for years, and then he died in prison. So there's no
Right.
way to know.
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
But I think it's
So
so funny. He was on the dating game, and I know I've already told you this story, Trace, but maybe the listeners will find it funny as well. He decided he was going to represent himself in court, and in the storage locker, along with the photographs, they had also found earrings, jewelry, women's jewelry, and there were
yeah,
a gold pair of earrings, and they were trying to link that to one of the victims. And he pulled up from the dating game, he pulled up, recordings from the dating game, and he said, look, I'm wearing these earrings here. Those are my earrings. But I
yeah,
just thought that was funny. He was using the dating game as his evidence, you know.
yeah. And I've never heard of the dating game killer until I'm weird, so I do a lot of documentaries on serial killers. So it just caught my attention that it said the dating game killer, and I was like, well, what is this about? Surely,
What's
Yeah.
that on?
a serial.
Where's that on? Is that
Yeah,
on Netflix or?
it was. You know what? I think it was on Netflix. It wasn't specifically about him. It was just kind of a blanket over serial killers in general. But yeah, because I remember the dating game, unfortunately. I'm getting to that age where, I was a kid when it was on, though, but I mean, I remember it being on, and I was like, really? I mean, a serial killer on the dating game. That's just okay, So it kind of caught my attention, and that's how I found out about him. So, yeah, you be careful when you're on dating games. I guess dating websites, whatever. I
Tinder.
guess that's what it'd be today.
There's
Yeah.
like a Tinder killer too, ain't there? There was like some guy. There was like some movie made about some guy that used Tinder to lure women or something.
Well, I do know right here close, and I don't know if it has anything to do with the Tinder or anything, but up in Chillicothe, Ohio, they've had several women show up, dead. So they thought there was a serial killer around. And a few years ago, this lady was meeting this guy from Charleston, West Virginia. He was coming up to Ohio, and she ended up, I mean, literally beating the crap out of this guy. And when the police finally showed up, they found, duct tape, all these other paraphernalia to commit a murder. And they're thinking that this cat was the guy that was doing all the killings up here. So,
He got his hind end
it's just,
beat off by a woman.
yeah, I mean, yeah, go to prison after that.
Yeah, man. Tell your friends about that.
Yeah. How tough are you, buddy? So, okay, Ab, back to you. We're going to do another one of my favorites. And this is probably one of the most disturbing ones for me. And that's Ed Kemper.
Big Ed.
Ed, I'm telling you, if you ever seen pictures of Ed Kemper, he may be 7 foot something. Yep. And probably 400 pounds. I mean, he is a Sasquatch of a man.
Correct. Yes.
When he was 13, okay, to do a little backstory, I guess his mother was really not a nice person.
Right.
And he went to go live with his grandmother and his grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I get, his grandmother was a lot like his mom.
Right.
But
very abusive.
The grandfather, yes, the grandfather wasn't, and he really cared for his grandpa. So I guess she was giving him a hard time one day, and he just grabbed a shotgun and shot her point blank. 13
Blew
years
her head off. Mm-hmm.
And he told police that when he killed his grandfather, the reason he killed him is because he knew when he come home and saw what he had done, he would be disappointed. Right. So he went ahead and killed grandpa too.
Right.
So, and I guess they put him in a mental institution out in California, and he was only there till he was 18, right?
18 years old. Mm-hmm.
And out
Yep.
he come, and then it ended up the co-ed killer.
Yeah. Well, I believe they tried every which way in the world to keep him from cohabitating with his mother. Whenever they turned him loose after his stay until he was 18, here he had no education except for what he received there, had no job,
Right.
no skills. And so they were trying to place him someplace where he would at least be able to start a life. And that was the goal, was for him to not go back and stay with his mother. Well, he ended up going back and staying with his mother, which was toxic from day one. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure she worked at a university, had some kind of administrative title at a university in Southern California or someplace. And very tumultuous relationship, very hate driven, filled with resentment towards her for all of the things that she said and did. And he was just not treated well. And I think he had a couple sisters maybe that she favored, and that she felt like she had to keep safe from him whenever they were growing up. But she was just a horrible, horrible person to him. And I think that caused him to be completely indifferent towards women, older women, just women in general. Like,
I
who
think
gets treated
that,
like that by their mom?
right. And I think that the mom kind of taught his sisters too, that it's okay to treat men this way and to talk down and so I think that probably also played a part in
Made it
why
way, yeah,
yeah
way
yeah
worse.
why
Because
he
here are
treated
these
And
women that you're supposed to be family with, that are supposed to love you, and they are talking, horribly to you and making such a big difference in the treatment of them versus you, that it would always be a competition. It would always be, you know, hateful feelings. And then he showed her all of those hateful
that's what I was going
feelings.
to say.
Yeah, he
Her
did.
demise was not a good one.
No, sir. No, sir.
So
Definitely not.
uh, he ended up killing her and her friend,
And her, yep, and her
um,
friend.
and decapitated her
Correct.
and did unspeakable things to the head.
Her mouth particularly, yes.
Yes, yes. So that just shows you the kind of hatred he had for her, though. And it
Yes.
just boiled over.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it. But
That was
yeah, he is such a if it is so funny to see him walking with these prison guards, because he's a solid 2 foot taller than these guys.
oh yeah. Belly,
And if
shackles, the whole nine
yeah,
yards. And he's a
and the only
mountain.
reason the only reason that they're walking with him is because he's allowing it.
Right.
He's that big of a man.
Right.
If he's Sasquatch size. I mean, he's huge. And it's
Yep.
almost comical to see him up against those prison guards because he's so much bigger.
That he could literally pick up and toss across the floor if he wanted to.
Like it was nothing. What could they do?
Right.
There's nothing they could do.
Well, and he was one that whenever I realized that you could correspond with people that are imprisoned, he was one that I thought, oh, I'm going to talk to that guy. Turns out he has dementia. So here I sent him an email and I was so super stoked. Maybe he's going to get back to me. Guess what? Ed Kemper has dementia. He doesn't respond to anyone. Son of
He
a
might
bitch.
have said, "What do you mean I killed all these people?"
Right. That'd be my luck. I'd be the one that
Thanks
would
for opening.
respond.
Thanks for opening those wounds back up.
Yeah, yeah. I was willing to
So,
do it for the public, though, guys. I was willing to do it.
but you have written several of these guys and have
Yes,
kind of corresponded with some of them.
yes, yes. It's one of my dirty secrets. I don't tell a lot of people,
Not
but I just
anymore.
did. Yeah, I just did. So Ed Kemper was definitely one of the ones that I was interested in writing, but he may not even know that he knows how to write now.
Right.
And I don't even know if he's still alive, to be honest. I corresponded back and forth a little bit with David Berkowitz, who's the son of
The
Sam,
son of
but he
Sam.
now
Yeah.
goes by the Son of Light. I did reach out to Gary Ridgway, who's the Green River Killer. He snubbed me. He would not even write me back, which I thought was rude. And then there was a gentleman in Florida by the name of Bernard Giles, but he goes by Gene. And he and I have carried on an email relationship for years. Yeah, super cool guy. I can ask him anything that I want to and not, I don't feel weird about it because we've kind of built up a little friendly relationship. And
Right.
yeah, really super cool. Kind of
And I actually
scary.
I just kind of seen an interview with him just the other day. And,
Mhm.
he was one of the few that didn't have a cooling off period.
No, absolutely
And a
not.
lot of these guys do, they'll kill for, 2 or 3, and then you won't see them or hear from them for 2 years.
Hmm.
This guy went within the span of a few months, killed, I think, 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah, 5, I believe. And it was pretty much unprovoked for no reason on this earth. He was one that did not have any childhood trauma, did not have any hatement or resentment towards women. His mother just lived a normal life, had a normal life. He was young. He married a lady, had a daughter, and I think she was maybe 4 or 5 months old whenever he started. She was less than a year old whenever he was captured. Yeah, he didn't have any reason on this earth to behave the way he did.
That was all down in Florida. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Titusville,
So,
Florida.
okay, Britt, you're up. I got, this is one you told me about that I didn't know anything about, was the Ice Pick Killer.
Yes. His name is Danny Bible. He's from Texas. He killed his neighbor with an ice pick, stabbed her 11 times, hence the ice pick killer. And then he had also killed it was a relative of his wife and her friend, and it was a couple-month-old baby as well. But he was also a serial rapist, burglarized many, many homes. Yeah, and like I said, he really was just a serial rapist. But then, went on to kill some as well. But I thought he was super interesting. And just the name, the Ice Pick Killer. He would kind of find whatever he could to commit these murders. It wasn't like
Right.
super like planned out or methodical. And he would use whatever was closest by, really.
Right. Right. And, you were telling me about it, and I'd never heard of this guy.
Yeah.
But I think your heart lies with the Baker Butcher, or the Butcher Baker Butcher.
Yeah. Yeah. That one's super interesting to me. And so it kind of starts off, the way that he was caught. That's kind of how I learned about it. He was staking out a donut. No, it was a coffee shop, a little coffee shop. He lived in Alaska. And no, I'm thinking of a different one. I'm just kidding. The Butcher Baker. So he also lived in Alaska.
Right.
But yes, so he was an avid hunter. He owned a donut shop. That's what I'm getting confused. He owned a donut shop, and he would pick up mostly prostitutes, sex workers, and he would, say, I'm going to pay you, but then he would pull out a gun, and then he would take them to his house, and he would rape them, sexually assault them, and then he would sometimes he would take them to his airplane because he was also a pilot, and he would say, "Hey, we're gonna get in this airplane. We're gonna go to such and such place. If you come along, I'll let you go afterwards. I just want to show you one more place." So they would get in the airplane and they would go off into the woods. He would let the woman go, and then a lot of these women were found in this big wooded area with gunshot wounds to their back, because he wanted to hunt them. Hunting game wasn't enough for him anymore. Hunting animals weren't enough for him anymore. So at that point, he decided, well, I'm just going to kill these women. So I thought that was super interesting.
And didn't he get caught with a map?
Yes. So there was one girl that had gotten away as he was trying to get her into his airplane, and she ran. She flagged down a truck. The truck took her to a hotel that she said she wanted to go to, but he ended up going to the cops, and so the cops had talked to her, and so that's kind of what put him on their radar. And he had committed, multiple more murders after that, because they thought, this is an upstanding guy. He owns this bakery. Surely what she's saying is not true. What is it?
Yeah, he was a pillar of the community.
Yeah. And so, they kind of let it go until, a couple more suspicious things happened. And then they were like, all right, well, it's at the top of our list now. So eventually they were able to get a search warrant, and they found a map in his home attached to the back of his headboard. And it was a map of the big wooded area with 24, 37? It was a lot of different X's on the map. And a lot of those X's were where bodies were found along the Knik River in Alaska. So that they were able to link him to even more bodies that had been found over that couple of years.
And you don't hear, I read a statistic where it said in the late 60s and 70s, even up into the 80s, California was the serial killer capital of the world. You don't hear much about Alaska.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, there can't have been that many serial killers in Alaska over the years.
Right, because I feel like the difference in people versus moose. There's probably more moose than there are people.
Than there are people.
There are people. So,
yes.
I guess you just get tired hunting moose.
I guess so. The moose aren't good enough. But the other one I was talking about was Israel Keys. He was originally, I believe, from I think New York, but he had eventually moved to Alaska. He owned a construction business in Alaska, and he didn't grow up with the best of childhoods. His parents were super I guess into strange religions. They were a part of LDS at first. Not that that's strange, but eventually they I think it was like Israelism, and then eventually they were like, well, let's be Amish. Not really, but they lived kind of like Amish.
Right.
They lived in a little cabin, no electric, no running water. He had a couple other siblings, and eventually the siblings would stay in a tent outside because their cabin wasn't big enough. And we're talking about Alaska here, so like, it's cold.
Yeah.
But they had to kind of fend for themselves, and he would also hunt down food. And a lot of his siblings said that the way that he treated animals was a little concerning to them. But eventually, because of all the religious changes within his childhood, he ended up saying, "Well, I'm a Satanist. I'm atheist. I don't believe in any of that." He started worshiping Satan, and he was, I guess, shunned, you could say, from his family. They said, "We don't want anything else to do with you," and so he was kind of on his own in Alaska, and he actually went into the Army, and then he came back to Alaska, and he started his own construction business, and then he ended up. This was the story that I was telling you about. He would stake out these women, and he wasn't like he wasn't super methodical either. He would kind of just, he was very methodical actually, but whenever it came to the actual person that he was going after, it was more, what feels good in the moment.
Opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So he found a little coffee shop that was open the latest, and he went after this young girl, and he ended up kidnapping her. And he decided, because he was real big into burglary and robbing, and he had robbed some banks across the U.S., and he'd never been caught for those. And he burglarized homes, never been caught for those. And he ended up, actually, after he took her, he killed her, and she stayed in a shed outside of his house while he went on a 2-week cruise with his family. Then he came back home, and he's like, well, I guess I should probably take care of this now. And he sent, from her cell phone, he sent her family a picture of her, and said that he wanted $30,000 ransom. And so he took a picture of her holding a newspaper, from that day. But they didn't know that she was dead. I guess where she had been frozen, there wasn't much decomposition, and he had sewn her eyelids open with fishing line, and put some makeup on her, and I guess they couldn't tell that she wasn't still alive. But so they put the money into her account. He used her debit card. He drove all over the U.S., taking money out of ATMs. I think the limit's like $500 a day. And then once he got down into Texas, they put an APB out for everybody to watch for this car. And they ended up catching him in Texas, and they sent him back to Alaska. But come to find out, he actually had murder kits all over the U.S. I'm not exactly sure what was in those murder kits, but I thought that was interesting. So like I said, he wasn't super methodical on who his victims were, but he obviously planned out, where it was going to happen, where these murder kits were at. If he's going to murder somebody, he's going to need what's in that kit.
Yeah, I mean, pre-planned.
Yeah.
And it's, and I don't know how many murder kits they found, but I mean, if they were all over the country, I mean, there could be potentially, hundreds.
Right.
So
that weren't ever even actually linked to him.
And it's, there's 30 active serial killers in America at one time, all the time,
Yeah.
all the time.
Interesting. Yeah.
So Ab, you mentioned the Green River Killer,
Mhm.
Gary Ridgway.
Gary Ridgway.
Explain. Listen, I know very little about this. Let me know what went on here.
So Gary Ridgway, he had, I believe, a very strange fascination with his own mother. He and his siblings were all athletes. They were all pretty academic. He was kind of the black sheep of the family. And they interviewed, I believe it was like a childhood neighbor of his, where he reported that like you could always hear what was going on at their home, like if he was outside playing, because it was constant yelling, constant chaos, constant criticism, just negativity all the time there. So he found his mother very attractive, and she kind of didn't give him the attention, I guess, that maybe he felt like he deserved. He, I believe, and most of his brothers joined the military, so he went off, married. I think he started to have a family with his wife, his first wife. They had a young boy, and he started just picking off prostitutes, and he did it in a very frenzied kind of way. He would keep toys, cars, different things in his vehicle that were his child's, so that whenever he would pick these women up, they would see these little trinkets, little toys, and I guess it would help them to not be afraid. Like, okay, he's got a child, so he's probably not a killer. Well, come to find out, he really was. And so he would strangle them, and he would dump them in or around the Green River. And he actually set a goal for himself that he was going to top 100. I don't remember how many he got to. So he and his first wife divorced. He pretty much lost contact with his child, which set him in a depressive spiral. But then he found love again, and he married this woman, and from what it seemed like, he was changed man. He was not going to be this individual anymore. And he went for several years without killing. And then he kind of picked it back up. And when he did, it was game on. He took out as many as he possibly could. And yeah, he hated women, and he certainly hated prostitutes. And that was his goal, was to kill as many as he possibly could.
That's one of the traits of serial killers, is their hatred for their either mother or women in general.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them attack prostitutes. One, they're women, and two, they're easy targets. As far as when I say easy target, they're easy to pick up.
Right.
Also, I feel like they don't really have any respect for prostitutes. They don't think, there's anybody that's going to miss them.
Right.
Their life doesn't have any meaning is what, these serial killers kind of think.
Yeah, that's true. And really not only serial killers, but kind of society does.
Society in general.
So,
yeah, you're right.
Who's going to spend a lot of time looking for a missing prostitute?
Right.
Right.
So, they're easy targets.
Well, and it's almost like, that comes with you choosing that as your job. You are going to put yourself in that situation. You kind of get what you get. And they
Yeah.
don't
You know,
think of them as someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone's sister.
that's right. And you know, a lot of
So,
things, if you don't go looking for trouble, generally you don't find it. But
right,
that lifestyle is nothing but trouble.
right,
You are fighting every day for every dime you make.
right,
So,
right.
so Britt, in about 5 minutes is what we got left. Um, I I want to get into this one because this guy was probably one of the most brutal ones, and that was the torso killer.
Yes. Yes, and you know a little bit more about that one too. Um, yeah, so the torso killer, he's from New York. He also went by the Times Square Ripper. His name was Richard Cottingham, I think it was.
Yes.
But yeah, he would drug women and take them back to his hotel room. Usually it was the same hotel name across New York, and there were a couple victims that he had been seen with by somebody that he knows, and he would cut off their heads so that they couldn't be identified, so that nothing could be linked to him. He would cut off their hands so that that wouldn't be linked to him. And I think the way that he'd gotten caught was he would catch these bodies on fire. He would start a fire in these hotel rooms, catch the bodies on fire to try to get rid of any evidence. And I think that he ended up being caught because of it was because of the fire truck that was there, and I'm pretty sure that that's kind of how they'd caught him.
Well, and they found in one of the hotel rooms, I don't know if it was a maintenance worker or who it was, but found a body
Yes,
under the bed.
housekeeper. Yeah. They found a body
Yeah.
underneath the bed. Yep.
So
And he would completely mutilate a lot of these women. A lot of them were sex workers or prostitutes, and he would mutilate them. And he would bite them, and nearly skin them. So I think that's kind of how he got the torso killer. He would mutilate their top.
and he wasn't just an average guy. He worked for a major insurance company.
Yes. He worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield in New York. I'm not sure what he did for them, but he also worked with Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. They worked there at the same time. Yeah, isn't that interesting? They worked there
Wow.
at the same time, but as far as I know, I haven't found anything that says that they knew each other.
What a
It's just kind
dynamic
of a
duo.
coincidence, right? But Alcala, he went under an alias at the time because he was, running away from the police. And he went by the name, I think it was John Berger. Very
Yeah.
John Berger.
original. Yeah, John Berger. And so, yeah, they both worked there at the same time, which was super interesting. But yeah, he
Both of
was,
them serial killing.
just a guy
Well,
working
yeah.
working for health insurance, and
Just
yeah.
picking
So
them off.
what's that old joke that the hitchhiker gets picked up and he says, "How do you know I'm not a serial killer?" And the guy driving says, "Well, what are the odds of two of us being in the same car?"
That's right.
Building.
Same building.
So
And being an insurance dealer too.
Yeah.
It's like, wow,
Right.
you're drumming it up. Okay.
Right?
yeah, exactly. It's we'll sell you this policy. I mean, your
You
family
ain't gonna
may
have it
collect it,
long. Right.
but your family may be able to collect on it. So, but just serial killers in general are just fascinating to me. I mean, their acts are despicable and
Yeah.
horrible, but just the fascination of, like I've said before, how they melt in and out of normal
And
society
why?
and
Why do they do what they
masochistic.
do?
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Just their
you
way of
know,
thinking is super interesting to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Their
so
thought process behind it.
think about it this way. If you just go into a gas station and the guy in front of you is paying for his gas, how do you know that's not the guy?
You don't.
Right.
You don't until
Mhm.
he's hovering over you with a knife to your throat.
Right.
And I think that's a lot before DNA. That's how a lot of these guys got away with it, because
Mhm.
their personas in normal society was like, well, there's no way he could have done that. When now DNA, there's no, there, it proves it. Yeah, you did it.
And I think that's
So
why there were so many serial killers in the 70s and the 80s. And then, come the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, DNA become um, a lot more advanced. They're able to
yeah,
do a lot more
yeah, exactly.
testing.
Exactly. So, well, ladies, thank you so much for coming on. I know both of you got to get up early and go to work in the morning, and
That means we'll be
you're going
together,
to be a
Brett,
little,
won't we?
That's right.
you're going to be a little sleep deprived in the morning. So, but guys, remember, hey, Rewind Indie, 7 o'clock on Sunday night. Go to Amazon, get Jimmy's book, Origins. Check him out. Go to Mr. Haunted Facebook. He'll get you a book. We are on TikTok, Spotify. What else, Seth? You're the tech guy. YouTube.
Facebook, TikTok. We're on Podbean for about 2 more weeks.
I can tell that
Okay.
Seth is not a big crime junkie. He didn't chime in at all.
We didn't let him, Brett. We didn't let him. It's
You're right.
fine.
But yeah,
Well, ladies, thank you so much.
Thanks,
you can
guys.
you can find the show on Podbean, Spotify, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere you can find podcasts at, man. We're on YouTube as well. So I appreciate you guys being
And
on. Absolutely, man. And we got a segment from presidential candidate in 2028, Mr. Hunt, to take us out.
Good day, America. My name is William Hunt. I'm from North Pole, Alaska. I am running for President of the United States because for 50 years I have been voting Republican Democrats, and we are taking away the future of our future generations. And we need to change that. So I decided to run for President of the United States in 2028 to convince America they should vote differently. That a Republican or Democrat should start voting for people who has a plan for America. Okay.
I want to thank Mr. Hunt for doing that segment. And you can check out my show with Mr. Hunt every week on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Podbean, YouTube, everywhere you find podcasts at. And everybody have a good night and God bless.